All right, come back in and have a seat. And now we are going to be, do this every time. Just won't tighten up enough. There we go. All right, so now we're going to be looking at angles. And if you open to page 35, we have a little bit more vocabulary with this one. And right off the bat, if you look at the example about halfway down the page on 35, it gives you a nice little angle there. And it's actually got a line cutting through the angle. So we're going to talk about what all those terminologies are. So an angle sort of has a segment, but not really. Instead of calling those lines segments that are coming out from all but one little point, we call it rays. So kind of like the rays of sunshine. So that's the first word that you need to understand is ray. And an angle consists of two rays that have the same endpoint. So if the endpoint is the bottom of my hand, and my hand are the rays, they're kind of shooting out this way. Notice they still have the arrows on the end and they're going off into infinity. Then, the rays are called the sides of the angle, and obviously if you get a triangle in there, you have three sides. But the part in the middle of the angle at that end point is the vertex. So you need to remember that. The end point is the vertex of the angle. So not only would I put down postulates and theorems and index cards, I'd have definitions as well. And so angle, sides, and vertex would be, and ray, would be some of the definitions that I would also put. Now, to indicate an angle, like if I wanted to say, if I'm looking at this one in the middle of your book, and I wanted to give it a name, I would start probably with the P, and I'd say PQR is my angle. And if you notice, there's all these cool little symbols. I would indicate angle PQR. Because I don't want to write the word angle every time, but I do want to indicate to you that I'm talking about an angle. And you can see in example number 1, there are several angles. PQS is an angle, SQR is an angle, RQS is an angle, SQP. So you can name it in a number of different ways. And this is why I always tell people geometry is the hardest homework to grade. Because you might tell me that PQS is equal to SQR, but Amelia might tell me RQS is equal to SQP. So you've given it, two different people give it two different names, but they're both right. So just be aware of that. Make sure you're very clear in what you're writing so that it's a little easier for me to grade, but there can be multiple answers when you're talking about an angle. So I want to take a look at our checkpoints, and I want you to tell me what a name could be for number 1. What could a name be for number 1? Moses. Yes, and always make sure you say angle, RST. You know how you have to attach, like if you're telling me something is a certain amount of square footage and you have to put square feet? Make sure you attach angle to that. How about number 2? Can somebody give me one of the angles in number 2? How about some ladies or a gentleman on this side? Johnny looks like he wants to answer. Number 2, on page 35, I need you to tell me one of the angles in number 2. Well, that would be part of it, because you have to give me all 3 points. What was it again? HMN. That would be the larger. Okay? Somebody, you want to give me another angle in that one? Go ahead, Reagan. KMN. So there's multiple. So if I said name one angle in number 2, You guys could go, give me different answers, but they would all be right. Okay, turn the page, and now is the fun with the protractor. And this is sometimes the hardest piece for people to understand. How do I use this protractor? Hopefully you've used it before and you are comfortable with it. But in order to measure our angles, we can't do it with a ruler. So we use the protractor. And I have this pretty cool one right here. It's magnetic, but this is not a magnetic board. So I'll make sure we get a magnetic board so that we can use it. Now let me just draw an angle, kind of out of the blue up here. All right, there's my angle. Now, how many of you are comfortable measuring with a protractor? A couple of you? Okay, so it just takes some practice. The one thing that you want to, and it does give you a nice little, you look at the example number 2, use a protractor to approximate the measure of angle BAC. Now they've taken that angle and they've actually laid it under the little picture protractor in there to show you what you have to do. And what you have to do, like I have this little circle in my cool protractor, and I'm going to lay it right on the point. Well, it's kind of hard if I do that. There, that kind of lays it right on the point. And so it's important for you to find that middle point of your protractor. So if you have one, I have a couple extra at home, so I'm going to bring those in so that everybody will have one to take a look at here. But you want to take the protractor, and there should be something. Can I look at yours? Some of them have a nice look. Yeah. So his has like this little indentation right here in the middle. You've got to find that middle. It's either an indentation or a hole. Maybe it's a point or darker point or something. And you want to lay that on the line. So I'm going to put that right on the point, and I want the bottom line here to be lined up with my protractor. So with the inner line here. Now the next piece that I'm looking for is where in the world is my other line shooting up? And it looks like it shoots up right around where it says 100 on top and 80 on the bottom. Now this is what makes everybody confused. Whoops, let me get it right back there. Because people sometimes think, oh, it's 100. It's 100 degrees. Because that's the number on the top. However, that's not true because we're looking at this angle. It shoots this way and this way. And we technically want to look at the bottom number, which is 80. Okay? Now let me show you how you can use some common sense with this. 90 degrees would be about like that. That might not be exactly. And 90 degrees is going to shoot up right to the middle of my protractor. So if I know 90 degrees is like this, straight up and down, then I know that 100 can't be the answer. Because 100 is more than 90, right? So here's my 90, so it has to be less than 90. And I really wish I had my magnetic. So next time we'll have this on. So I know that I've got to be less than 90. So now if I have a choice to make here between the two, I have to choose the 80. Okay? So let me do one more, and then we'll try some of them in here. And then I think we'll about be out of time. Boy, time flies when you're having fun, doesn't it? So much fun. It was actually my favorite. It's not my favorite to teach, but it was my favorite in school. I loved it. And the only reason it's not my favorite to teach is because the grading is so much harder.
What was your favorite to teach then?
Algebra. But you guys get me 2 years in a row, which I know you're thrilled about, right? Yeah, oh, Johnny's up here, biggest cheerleader. Okay. All right. Now this one's kind of off kilter. I don't have a nice straight line running across my board. It's actually tilted up a little bit. That means I have to tilt this up a little bit. So I still look for that. Here's my little hole, and I'm going to put that right on my corner, which is called what? Does anybody remember what it's called? Starts with a V? Vertex. So I'm going to put it right on that, and then I kind of have to line my line up with where it says 0. So I'm looking for the 0. So I'm going to line it all up. Now, remember I'm following this bottom, and I'm going to keep going until I find where my line is shooting up. And my line is shooting up right around 50. Now, right above it is 130. But I know with my common sense that 130 can't be the answer, because 130 would be like a wide open angle. Remember, 90 is the straight up and down. So it can't be 130. It's got to be that lower number. Okay, so just be careful, use your common sense, and there is my angle. Does this make sense? I may post a couple of videos by other people showing how to use this, because I think maybe if you can see it closer up, it might be a little easier to understand. Yes?
So when we use the top number when the angle comes
So let me show you when you're going to use the top number. I don't know how much this is going to like straight lines. So let's get some straight lines here. All right. So this is my vertex. Still going to line it up just right. And I'm still looking for where that other line shoots through. And I know that you guys probably aren't seeing quite as well. So I'll try to move around here a little bit. So here is where I put it on the vertex. Here is the bottom line. Now I'm looking and I don't see anything in here. So I keep going around, but when I hit this point, now I start reading, or I'm still reading the bottom, but you'll notice that the bottom numbers are going up. Okay? So I'm still reading the bottom, and they're going up. So I keep coming around, 80, 90, it's not that, 100, 110, 120, 130. So it looks like my angle is going to be about 130. Now, sometimes protractors will be made where you actually switch. So you're reading the bottom, and then when you get up here, mine isn't, but then you start reading the top. You have to use your common sense. Does this look like it could be an angle of 130? Absolutely, because 90 would be, something like that, although I didn't draw a real good vertex there. So if I'm thinking 90 is a right angle and 130, this certainly does look like it would be 130. So you do have to use your common sense a little bit if you're looking at those going, I'm not sure which one I'm supposed to be reading. So I don't know if any of you have the protractor where it actually switches place, but there are protractors where you're reading the bottom and then it switches to the top. So just be careful of that. All right, let's try to take a couple. There's an angle addition postulate. You need to write that down. I'm going to hurry along now because we're almost done. And there's 4 angles that you need to memorize or put on your index cards. An acute angle is below 90 degrees, 90 or below. Well, not 90. It's below 90 degrees. And an acute angle is going to, I kind of think of it, here's how I remember it. A cute little angle. Can you remember that? A cute little angle. 2 different words. A cute or a little cute angle. Isn't that clever? Less than 90 degrees. Johnny thinks it's clever. The right angle is the one we've already talked about. It's where you see in a lot of corners. Your floor should have a lot of right angles because you do not want it to be off or you would be moving up and down. This church has settled in so many places that sometimes you're walking and you feel like you've gone down a little bit. I don't know if you've ever experienced that. That is not on a right angle. Okay, something has happened and it has settled. Then you have an obtuse angle, and if you think about bigger, if you think about obese, obese is large, and so obtuse, that same OB, it's bigger than your 90 degrees. So that's your really wide angles. And then finally, straight is just 180 degrees. Okay? So that's just a straight line. Those are on page 36. You should write those down. And then you've got the angle addition postulate. So I think we're almost at lunchtime, and I definitely don't like to keep people over lunch. So I will post a couple other people showing how to use your protractor just in case you get stuck on that. And I will also post these videos. And if you have questions, I will be sending a link for homework help tomorrow. So there's nothing mandatory for our virtual class, but it is just for homework help. So if you want to pop in, feel free. Yes.
We're leaving this stuff here, right?
What do you have after this? Science. If you want to go ahead and put it here in the side room, you can go ahead and do that, and then that way you can just grab it when you come back over and take it downstairs, because I think you're downstairs for science. So that's probably a good idea. And if you used your board, please raise your hand so that I can have you wipe it off. Oh, goodness. Oops, sorry. Just wipe it off for me, please. And leave it sit for the next group. And then move your stuff to the side room, and you may walk over to Parish Hall for lunch. Anyone got? You didn't use it. You gotta use your board. I didn't take your place. Oh, and the rulers you can drop off at the table up there.
Where do I put this?
There's a trash can that goes out.
Okay.
You just wipe your board off. Thank you. Yeah. Anyone?
I will.
Oh, you need one?
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry.